Hey, what's up? It's Comic95, the Savior, and for this video, I want to talk about mental health in Japan. So as I've talked about in a few videos on my channel throughout this year, mental health in Japan is taken completely different than it is in other foreign, so-called Western countries, such as, US, the US, various countries in Europe, such as the UK, Australia, etc. So I'm going to speak on my own country, the US, because I am an American, but I'm sure other countries can relate and have similar situations like my own. So recently, over the past 20 plus years, especially over the past 10 years in particular, mental health awareness has definitely risen significantly. It's totally okay to talk about feeling depressed and anxiety, etc. In fact, it's gotten to the point where some people have even, started lying about, having mental health issues and illnesses and problems, etc. Whether it's to get clout or attention or to make money off of it, etc. But that doesn't take away the fact that a lot of people do suffer from these things. I myself am personally a victim of this mental illness, so to speak. I talk about it all the time, and I talk about how I even had to take back ownership and power of it because I grew up inside of a household in which I had abusive family members, particularly, 3 older sisters, as well as, even my brother and my dad, and even my mom, to be honest with you, that tried to use my issues against me to make me feel like a bad person, to keep me quiet, to silence me, and to justify the abuse that I went through at home. And I was also misdiagnosed with things that most certainly were not true about me. I personally have social anxiety and suicidal depression. So those are, the issues that I personally deal with. So I'm speaking from experience. I could definitely relate to people that have these problems. But enough about me. My point is that in the US, there's, awareness about these things. People are talking about it more. It's more socially acceptable. People are more willing to go and get help, get counseling, take medication. It's no longer, a crazy person thing, as, people used to refer to it as being. So, of course, there's still some stigma behind it, especially when it comes to gender. But even then, it's more open and more socially acceptable for men to get counseling, for men to talk about having mental health issues. We've even had celebrities, that have taken their own lives due to mental health issues. And when these situations happen, it's, given media attention, etc. But unlike my home country in the US, Japan is still back in like dinosaur times. It's like being in the 1940s or 50s here, except probably even worse. So unlike in the US, where mental health is seen as a temporary problem, and we oftentimes see it as, oh, you're just being selfish, you're basing it off of your current situation, look to the future type thing. In Japan, it's kind of a mix of that, but a little bit more permanent is how it's viewed. So unlike in the US, if you talk about having mental health issues such as depression or anxiety, it's seen as something permanent that cannot be gotten rid of. And instead of people wanting to help and or support you, people actually want to stay away from not just you, but you and your family. It's seen as something that you don't want to be associated with the person that has it. It's almost like the equivalent, I hate to say this, but I'm going to keep it real, best example I can give. Think about how people feel about people that belong to the LGBT, that identify as, being, gay or lesbian or, transsexual, etc. It makes a lot of straight people, especially men, feel uncomfortable being around another guy that is. Which is really silly because being friends with somebody has nothing to do with your sexual preferences. But I'm also going to keep it real. I'm not going to play PC politics with you here. I understand the concept of it, but it doesn't change the fact that it's silly. Well, in Japan, it's the same concept, except this is for mental health issues. So they treat it the same way that, a straight heterosexual male typically treated, somebody that was gay back in like the 80s, 90s, before 2010, basically, where it wasn't socially acceptable. So for a lot of you guys that are like a part of Gen Z, this is all you've really ever known. You kind of grew up on the tail end of things. I'm somebody that was born right at the end of the whole millennial era, but I specifically remember being in school and seeing how things shifted between, from Obama being elected, that it used to be okay for people to make jokes, people used to call each other names, all type of stuff, and I'm going to be real with you, I was guilty of using those slurs and stuff like that too. I think anybody was, just being honest with themselves, that was going to, high school, junior high, etc., prior to 2000 and, prior to 2008, I would say. So yeah, These were terms and things that people used, casually talked about, etc. And it used to be okay to bully people that were part of those things. Now, I was never a part of that end of things, but you get what I mean? Like, there was this stigma to it. And so it was to the point where people that did identify as it, like, for example, a really close friend of mine, childhood friend of mine's, was actually a lesbian, but she was not willing to come out. And whenever anyone would, tell her that she would deny it, adamantly. She would be really angry about it. So this video is not about sexuality or the LGBT, so I'm going to get off of that topic, but I'm using it as an example. Back then, there wasn't a lot known about it, not a lot understood about it, and it was seen as something that, people just didn't want to have anything to do with you if you belonged to it. So people just kept it to themselves. People avoided acknowledging the fact that they did like the same sex. And this is how people treat mental illness here in Japan. It's the best example I can give. Even if somebody feels like, I do have symptoms that show that I'm depressed, that I am bipolar, that I do have, anxiety issues, etc., they will keep it to themselves and stay closeted about it. And most won't even go to seek medication or counseling, etc. Because if you do and word gets out about it, people will avoid you. No one wants to be your friend. No one wants to date you. You'll have trouble renting a place. Believe it or not, yes, renting a place. You have trouble getting a job. And so it's actually pretty common for places to ask you, both, employers as well as, housing places, to ask you if you have any, signs or in the past, mental health issues, etc., or if you've, been on medication, things like that. And it seems like an innocent question, which some of us, from the US, you might probably answer like, yeah, I'm a survivor of this, or I'm a victim of that, or I've taken medicine for this, or I'm getting counseling for that. But it's actually a way to weed out applicants, to weed out people that they don't want to work for their company, to live inside their housing, etc. And so to play devil's advocate, one part of me gets it. You don't want somebody to, end their life inside of your place, or, on the job, or to quit their job due to, mental health issues, etc. I understand that as somebody that does struggle with these things myself, and I know that it has affected my work and my relationships, etc. But at the same time, it's like these people still need work. These people still need, houses, etc. They need a place to live. They need a place to work. And so it's kind of like a really tricky situation. And I see it more as being, discriminatory. It's like they're not trying to get you help. They just don't want anything to do with you. They don't want you to work for them. They don't want you to live with them or near them, etc. And even your own friends and partners, they will leave you when they find out that you have issues. I cannot tell you how many times I've dated guys in which I've expressed, including my ex, my own issues, with mental health, etc. And for them, even if they want to support you, it's like they don't know how. At best, they might, try to treat you, take you out for a meal, do something fun with you, but they don't truly understand what mental health issues are. And when you say that you have them, they try to talk it out of you, like, no, you don't, you're fine, you don't have mental health issues, that's not true, don't say that, don't say you want to, end your life. I can't use that term, you know what I'm really trying to say. Don't say you want to KLL yourself, don't say, you want to do those things, etc. So instead of trying to figure out why do you feel this way, trying to get you counseling, trying to get you on medication, whatever, the need might be, their goal is to get you to simply stop saying that, to forget about it, to not believe that that's true about yourself. And so while oftentimes their intentions are, well, they mean well, they have good intentions, it's not what these people need. So I will be the first to tell you on a personal note, I am not supportive of medicating everything. I don't believe in taking medication unnecessarily, and I personally did not find it useful for my own issues. But I am not going to be against it for other people. If it does work for you, if it does make you feel better, keep you sane, stabilizes you, whatever, then by all means do whatever works for you. But in Japan, not only is it not, a matter of people just being against taking it, for health reasons or feeling like it doesn't help you, but rather if you take it, it's shameful. And instead of it being seen as, oh, this is a temporary problem, you taking it shows that there's a, weakness within you. Instead of it being seen as something courageous. It takes a lot, especially for an adult, to be willing to admit themselves to the hospital, to be willing to put themselves in counseling, to not, have somebody forcing them to do it, but to step up and decide to do it on their own. And unlike in my culture, mental health is not a gendered thing where it's like, oh, it's only shameful for men to get counseling. It's the same for women. So things like couples counseling, marital counseling, things like that, no. People don't do that, because by doing that, you're showing that you have a problem in your relationship. You're showing that there's a problem with your family, a problem, with your lineage, your bloodline, etc. It doesn't just stop with you. So by you going to get help for your own personal issue, your own mental health, you're actually, making a fool out of your entire family. So you'll be discouraged from doing such a thing. And you definitely would not want to tell your job, your partner, anyone else, because they are not going to support you 9 times out of 10 unless they happen to be super internationalized. And truth be told, even the most internationalized people, even the people that, can speak English totally fluent, that spent time in the US or Australia or anywhere else, A lot of them still sadly hold on to those, thoughts, harbor them inside their mind, where they feel like, oh, like, mental health is, for weak people, whatever. And it's really interesting that this also ties into religion as well. And so again, I'm not trying to get into PC politics with you guys. No, this is going to offend some people. I'm a Christian, might I add, in case you don't know that. But they feel the same way about religion. It doesn't stop at Christianity, but any religion, whether it's Islam, Catholicism, etc. And I know that a lot of my subscribers here are, agnostic or, Islamic. I'm aware of that. But keep in mind that, this isn't about a specific religion. It's seeming like, it's belonging to a religion, period. It's seen as a sign of weakness. It's seen as, a person that can't stand on their own. They have to find comfort in a religion. They can't think for themselves, basically. It's how it's viewed. And I get it, people that are agnostic, don't have religion, or that, are atheists, whatever. They probably feel that same way about people that are religious too. But your reasoning is different than the reasoning here, so to speak. So it's hard to explain, but yeah, basically, if you do have mental health issues, you're supposed to keep it to yourself. You're not supposed to go and seek help for, for those things. And there aren't as many, counseling offices or, places to go to seek help, to seek medication, to get counseling, etc. And even, the people that you would think you could confide in and talk to. In Japan, huge cultural difference. So you don't go and talk to your family, your friends about your personal problems. You literally are supposed to keep them to yourself. So in the US, it's really common when you have a bad day at work, bad day at school, etc. Similar to my journals that I do here. Some of you guys act like you're Japanese in my comment section. You go home and you tell your friends, you tell your mom, you tell your boyfriend, your husband, whoever, you tell your kids what went on inside your day. You go off about everything, say things you couldn't say, during the moment at that event. But if you do that in Japan to people, it actually makes them want to stay away from you. It's like, why are you telling me all of this stuff? Why are you complaining about your life? Why are you saying this stuff? Like, handle it on your own. Like, you're actually burdening other people with your issues is how it's viewed. From my perspective as an American, this is juicy conversation, which is why a lot of you guys like watching my journals. You're getting inside information on somebody else's life, what they were thinking, what happened. I'm more like, girl, what? Like, if my boyfriend came home and told me, that this happened at work and this person said whatever, I'm going to be like, really? Oh, well, I would have done X, Y, and Z. And I'll, give my 2 cents and I'll, be on his side about stuff, etc. At best, what they might do is listen to you, but they're not going to give a lot of opinions about it, and it's going to make them really uncomfortable. So tied into that, in Japan, culturally here, everyone has social anxiety. You are taught to care more about how your behavior, your actions, your words will affect other people than how other people's actions, behavior, and words will affect you. So keep that in mind. You come second to everyone else in the world. So even if something is hurting you, you're not supposed to make a big deal or a big scene about it. You're supposed to handle it yourself. I also wanted to add that when your partner or friends do tell you some personal things about how they're feeling, they normally won't go into detail. So for example, when I was dating other people as well as my ex, they'll sometimes come home and tell you, oh, I didn't have a good day. They'll say, oh, my boss was, angry, or my coworker doesn't like me, or, I had a bad day type thing. Like, this happened. They gave me a lot of work. But they won't go into detail and tell you the whole thing. They won't tell you about how it made them feel. They won't tell you the details of what happened. They won't, give scenarios of what they wish they could do or say or talk about, oh, like, I want to do X, Y, and Z to my boss, or I hate this person. I can't stand them. They'll never talk to you like that. It'll always be something super, super vague and not detailed. And they'll quickly try to change the subject. So yeah, they don't have like super deep, juicy conversations where they talk about what they wish they could do, etc., or what they want to do to their boss or coworkers or whatever. They won't even joke with you like that. You'll always find the exception to the rule, but on average, most people just don't have that type of conversation. And honestly, I feel like when they do talk to you and tell you in detail how their day went, it's kind of killing them on the inside because they feel like they're doing something bad and wrong by complaining to you or talking about something that's negative. And really, this goes into positive stuff too, but in particular, negative stuff, they really don't like to be detailed or talk about it a lot. And when they do it, like I said, they almost feel guilty for sharing their true feelings, for telling you what's going on inside their mind, and for saying something that's, basically a burden to you, because now the way that they view it is by them telling you and expressing, this is how I feel, it's almost as though they're like putting off their problems onto you for you to fix it. It's how it's viewed. So it oftentimes makes people feel really uncomfortable, really strange, like, oh my God, I shouldn't have told her that. I shouldn't have said this. And they almost regret telling you that type of information. So Again, the more internationalized a person is, the more understanding and willing they are to talk about and do other things like that. But for most people, even if they've gone abroad before, their mindset isn't truly Western, so to speak, even if they claim that it is, in the sense that they do not acknowledge mental illness, mental health issues. I don't like to call it the illness. They don't acknowledge mental health issues, mental health problems, and they don't believe in talking about their own issues. So even if somebody does acknowledge, oh, this exists, Japan's work culture life is bad, they don't understand that a part of fixing it is being able to talk about your problems. You don't have to be depressed, anxious, or, angry or anything else. Just talking about your problems should be a normal part of your everyday life. You can't just bottle everything up. You're going to explode. And that happens here a lot. So yeah, I'll get back to the video, but just throw that in here that you will have, moments inside your relationship, especially if you beg your partner, where they'll tell you little bits and pieces, but they'll never paint the whole picture of what really happened, or tell you oh, my boss did X, Y, and Z, my coworker did X, Y, and Z, this is unfair, that's whatever. At best, they might say, oh, I've been given a lot of work, this person doesn't like me, they're really hard on me, that's it. They'll make it seem as though the bad things that are happening to them is justified almost. So it's almost like they're not really complaining in that sense. So yeah, that's it. Back to the video. Okay, sorry, one more thing. I also wanted to add that this is actually a really big reason why foreigners actually choose to leave Japan. So I often talk about on my channel that people choose to quit because their work environment is bad or their relationship, etc. But to take it a step further, a lot of people run off to Japan for the purpose of handling their mental health. You'll see it in my comment sections all the time. I get emails about it all the time. And I can even be honest, to a certain degree, it was part of the reason why I did want to come to Japan myself. No shade, not blaming you, not talking down on you, but just being real, this is probably the worst place to go to if you're not already mentally stable, so to speak. Because unlike other countries, Japan does not acknowledge it, and their acknowledgement of mental health is basically, you're crazy, I don't want to date you, I don't want to work with you, live with you, be friends with you, etc. Get away from me. Here, you're not free to express yourself. You're not free to talk about your bad days. You're not free to talk about how you feel inside your mind, etc. So yeah, this is a huge reason why even foreigners choose to leave here. There are not a lot of options for medication and counseling, etc. And by choosing to get that, again, a lot of foreigners, especially if you're a native English speaker, they're too busy living in their own bubble, in their mind, and they're just completely blissfully unaware of what's going on around them. And to them, they're like, oh, people are listening to me. People care what I have to say. But really, they're doing just that. Notice they're listening to you, and you're the one doing most of the talking because they're thinking, oh my God, this foreigner is crazy. Why is she telling me all of this stuff? Why is she taking medication? Why are you in counseling? Why are you depressed? What's wrong with your family? That's what they're really thinking of you. And for most people, they eventually catch on to these things and realize, oh, I don't have real friends. I don't have a supportive partner. I don't have whatever. And they ultimately choose to, just leave the country. So yeah, huge factor for why foreigners choose to go back to their home country. There is no help, no stability here for people that have mental health issues. And again, it is a commonly asked question when applying for jobs or, getting housing here, even for foreigners. So just want to throw that in here that this is not an exclusive problem with just Japanese people. Even as a foreigner, you are going to have to assimilate and get used to how things run here. Because even if you say, I don't care what other people think, I'm going to get, help for myself, etc. By you trying to seek the help that you need for your mental health, you're going to damage potential jobs, potential relationships with employers, with people, friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case is. It goes much deeper than just what you feel comfortable with sharing with other people. It's also the reaction that other people will have towards you for sharing these things. It's not one-sided because, like I said, you might say, oh, I don't care about people think about me, what they say, whatever. You're going to have to care because their opinions will determine where you get to live, where you get to work, who you get to be friends with, who you get to date. And it's not just one small group of people. You're dealing with an entire country that has this mindset. So the people that don't think this way, that do understand you, they're the exception and not the rule. So yeah, just want to throw that in here. You should think, is it worth it to go get help in counseling and embarrass my family? Is it worth it to complain about my job and embarrass my company or make, my friend feel uncomfortable? People won't even raise their hand at school, not just because they don't know the answer, but because in Japan, asking somebody to give things like their own opinion on something is a cultural taboo. So for example, if you ask somebody, what do they like about something or what do they think about something, they normally will not tell you. Let me take that back. If you ask them what they think about something, you need to ask direct yes or no questions that are personal. So for example, if you say, do you like pizza? Yes or no. People don't mind giving their opinion on that. But if you ask people, go into politics or, anything where they have to give their own opinion, is this right or wrong type thing, then people feel uncomfortable. So even something simple like a very famous, extended response question that we got asked when I was in grade school: should students be allowed to use cell phones in school? Should student athletes be paid type thing? That can make Japanese students feel super uncomfortable. They don't want to give the wrong answer based off of what the group thinks type thing. Whereas in the US, you kind of don't mind going against the grain. We're taught that having debate skills and being strong and strategic and being able to hold an argument makes you smart and intelligent. Whereas in Japan, being argumentative, being a debate type person is seen as ignorant, insensitive, out of touch with reality, and selfish. And so this carries over into mental health issues. When you talk about yourself, when you share about yourself, what's going on with you, instead of it being, oh, let's get you help, oh, I'm sorry you're feeling the way, it's a matter of, how weak of you. What about your kids? What about your family? Okay, I have a bad day too. You don't see me over here crying about it, whining about it, whatever. That's how it's viewed. And people won't normally be direct with you and tell you that. Instead, they'll just distance themselves from you. And so don't get me wrong, even in the US, nobody wants to hang out with somebody that's always crying, always depressed, always having a bad day, always acting like an Eeyore. Nobody wants a friend like that. Nobody wants to work with somebody like that. Nobody wants to live with somebody like that. I totally understand. But you would think the people that are closest to you would understand, especially if you're talking about, wanting to, end your life, so to speak. You would think that, those type of topics would, alarm someone and make them want to seek help for you. Instead, it's just brushed off like, oh, you're just playing. And then when you see these people go to the train station and walk onto those tracks type thing, everybody acts surprised for 2 seconds. Then they get angry at the person. Oh, how selfish of you to only be thinking about yourself. What about your children? What about your job? Who's going to take your place type thing? Everything is about how the country runs, how the world runs. Who's going to take your place is what comes across people's mind, and not, oh my God, I'm so sorry this person felt that way. They felt so bad, bad enough they didn't want to be on this earth anymore. That's not the way that they view it. You will not get sympathy for doing things like that. And here in Japan, as I said inside my other video, they don't give that type of stuff spotlight. When somebody does do that on the train tracks, it doesn't make the news here unless it was somebody like super important or something, really crazy happened in the process of it. Doesn't make the newspaper, doesn't make the news. You'll see a tweet about it on Twitter, Yahoo News, Japan, something. That's about it. The excuse is they don't want to encourage people to copycat it by giving this person 15 seconds of fame. But in reality, it's just a matter of them not caring about the person. It's not of importance to them. So again, it's not just a personal level of weakness. It's seen as your whole family's weak and something's wrong with them. They see things like having mental health issues as it being hereditary and something that runs in your bloodline and in your family, which means that people will not want to marry you if you have that, because they don't want to have kids that could potentially have those issues. And this goes into other things too. I really should make this a separate video, but this also goes into, learning disabilities and, social disabilities, etc. So things like, autism or, speech, disabilities and, things like that. When you are teaching from a teacher perspective, we're not even allowed to tell parents that we believe that, a child might have a learning disability. And the excuse is, oh, you're not a doctor. You shouldn't be saying that. Guys, doctors diagnose stuff the exact same way that we do. Let's call a spade a spade. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to tell that somebody has a learning disability. You might not know what exactly is it, but doctors don't either. They do the exact same type of test. They literally do, verbal tests with talking to you. They have you fill out, forms, circling stuff. How do you feel? What do you think about this type thing? And then they make a guess as to what they think you might have. I would know because I've been through this stuff before myself. So, sorry, my phone is blowing up. But yeah, so like, even with things like that, even if you see that there's clearly an issue, we're not allowed to even suggest that there might be something going on. Instead, our goal as a teacher, our job, is just to try our best to support with the issue that you have. And so the problem is that if you do go and seek help for these things, it doesn't just end at the fact that socially, you're going to be, blackballed, so to speak, in your community and within your group of friends and from the family. But on top of that, a lot of jobs won't hire you if they find out, or, places won't rent you. They find out that you've been, taking medication, that you've gone and sought counseling, that, you've been doing whatever. Word gets around here pretty fast. I had a Japanese friend, long story short, that was a coworker of mine's. She went to go get some medication for, her personal issues down there. And yeah, they actually went back and told, because they were friends, apparently, like friends with her boss. They told them, oh, I saw such and such at the pharmacy the other day. And they told exactly what she bought. And so it's like, okay, like you don't even have privacy, like as far as that goes, but medical stuff. And this is just a regular drugstore, like Walgreens type thing. So just little things like that. Like people like to gossip about things, have to deal with, personal issues like that. So things have to deal like, with mental health or learning disabilities, things like that, which is really weird because that's the one thing you would think they wouldn't want to gossip about, because they normally, I would say people here in general are pretty good with keeping things to themselves, they think. But when it comes to that, nope, word gets around pretty fast. So yeah, if you say something like that, you're ruined for life. So for example, if your kid gets diagnosed with having, autism, being autistic, whatever the case is, or having, delayed speech, things like that, what's going to happen is they're going to infinitely be inside of special needs classes, which is going to stop them from being able to go to a good school, which is going to stop them from being able to get a good job here in Japan. And I'll make another video based, talking about, going to schools and stuff here, but I wanted to specifically talk about this aspect of it. So this all ties into the exact same thing. You might know that your child needs help. You might know that you need help, but you also have to realize that by seeking that help, you are giving yourself a death sentence. So even if, you get over your depression, you're fine, it's cured, you no longer have those issues, you've healed yourself, you can't go back anymore. Because now it's permanently on your record that you've done these things. And so it really sucks because I feel like there's so many people's lives that can be changed and that can be saved by, just being able to talk to other people, like beyond counseling, beyond medicine, just being able to vent and talk to people. You would never see a Japanese person on YouTube doing what I'm doing even right now, because even to Japanese people that are subscribed to me, I probably seem like a total fool. Why is this girl telling all of her business online? Some of you Americans probably feel the same way. Why is this chick telling all of her business online? But it's for that exact reason. We're human. We're social beings. We need to communicate and socialize with other people. We need to talk about our bad problems and bad days just as much as we talk about our good days and good problems, good situations, etc. Everything is not going to always be all cupcakes and rainbows. And this culture doesn't teach you that. It teaches you everything is perfect, everything's good, be grateful. And if things aren't good and aren't going perfect, you're weak, something's wrong with you, you don't know how to handle it, keep it to yourself, nobody needs to hear about it. And it doesn't discriminate based off of your age, your nationality, your gender, nothing. Whether you are a child or an adult, people do not care how you're feeling, how your day is going. If it's good, great. Don't brag about it. If it's bad, we don't want to hear about it. It does not matter how close you are to someone. There's always going to be an exception to the rule, somebody that doesn't mind listening to you and truly giving their own input and feedback and supporting you. But generally speaking, even for the most internationalized people, at best they might just offer a listening ear, but they're not going to truly be supportive in the sense where they'll talk to you or make recommendations for what you should do or help you resolve your issues. It'll literally just be them listening to you blindly and thinking like, wow, foreigners are crazy. And from their perspective, they kind of feel that way because we're super emotional about everything is how they see it. Because for them, they've been taught to basically be robots. You're having an issue, you're having a bad day, shut up and keep it to yourself. Nobody needs to know about it. Whereas for us, something bad is going on inside of our life. Our natural reaction as Americans, we want everybody to know. We want to share it with them. We want sympathy. We want support. We want people to know what's going on with us. We want people to respect our privacy, our space, to be sensitive towards us. But Japanese people, their mother or something could die, and they'll just go right back to work, no tears, do everything just as usual, probably work overtime. They're not going to call off and ask for a week off or, something crazy like that. And so for them, again, like it's a cultural difference. They can't understand our need for these things, and they don't realize that they need these things too. They're not some type of super being that, is immune to depression, immune to anxiety, immune to, anger issues, bipolar disorder, or anything else, personality disorders, etc. There's just a ton of people here that are mentally ill, that are not, being diagnosed based off of their culture here, because they would rather live with, potentially having a mental health, issue than discover that they have it and then, have to acknowledge it, face it, and get help for it. And even if they know that they have it, they'll pretend like they don't. They'll deny it. And to be honest, for a lot of people here, I feel like because mental health is talked about so little, a lot of people don't even know what it is. A lot of people don't even know how to tell if they have depression. They've never even thought about it before because it's never talked about. Think about it. If nobody has ever talked to you about depression, how would you know what depression is? In your mind, I'm just sad. I'm just thinking weird things. You don't even have a label for it. That's how it is here. It's never talked about. There is almost no advertising for it, almost no ads for it, and the stuff that you do see is really geared towards foreigners, not Japanese people. You go to a mental health clinic, office, counseling, whatever, it's full of English, really foreigner based, because you're not going to really see a lot of Japanese people signing up for that type of stuff. Does it exist? Do they get counseling? Do they have medicine? Do they have doctors, psychiatrists, etc.? Yes, all of that stuff does exist here. But it's extremely discouraged. It's not used nearly as often as it is in the US. You are really discouraged from going and seeking help and going through with these things. So again, in a nutshell, it's seen as you having a weakness. It's seen as not just a personal problem, but a problem with your family, your DNA, your lineage. There's something running in your blood. It's shameful. And unlike in the US, people here do not talk about issues, problems, drama with their friends and family or even their lovers. Your issues stay with you. You might gossip about a cute guy or a date that you had at best, but people do not gossip about their work life, about being bullied, about having bad days, about financial problems, marital issues, etc. They stay to yourself. You can't use that type of stuff to make small talk. If you do it, it's seen as super inappropriate, super ignorant, and very crazy and loony, basically. You try to make small talk with a fellow mom and complain about your kids or your spouse or the housework at home, and she's going to feel super uncomfortable, like, why are you telling me this? And you might be thinking, like, we've been best friends, like, for years. I can't talk to you like that. I can't be real with you. Nope, you most certainly can't. And she won't do it with you either. She'll only tell you the good things, keep it very short and minimal. Conversation here is really super cliche, basic, doesn't really get deep. When people do talk, it's normally about neutral subjects that don't have much to do with you or the other person. You might talk about your likes, interests, things you want to do, but you don't talk about problems. You don't talk about your relationship. You don't talk about your work. You don't talk about your friends. You don't talk about your housing situation, your family. It's really, really crazy to think of here. So yeah, completely different view of mental health. It is not seen as something that is a temporary, solution, temporary problem that, people can, get help for. It's seen as something that's permanent. It's seen as though it's some type of contagious disease. You tell people that you have these issues, most people want to avoid you like the plague. Most people will not want to date you, want anything to do with you. And you will also miss out on opportunities to work and live in certain places based off of, these issues. People will not try to find ways to help you. They'll just try to find ways to avoid you. So that's it. If you're living in Japan or have lived here, please feel free to share down below what your issues are, here as far as that goes. How do you feel about how mental health is treated here? Do you find it different from how it's treated in your home country? Do you agree with what I said or do you disagree? What do your friends, partner, whatever, what are their thoughts or feelings on mental health in Japan? I think it varies depending on who you're talking to, but I think anybody that's living here knows what I'm saying. It's pretty much true. You don't hear about these type of things. It's not understood or supported. And even when people try to support you, at best they can just listen to you, but they don't really understand what's going on with you, and they kind of want to distance themselves after you've spilled all of your beans about how bad your life is and how sad you are and how anxious you are, etc., and your panic attacks and saying that you're taking medicine. Like, it just kind of scares people away from you. So give me your 2 cents. What do you think about all of this? Have you been in Japan? Did it affect you? Have you worked with people? Because I know I almost certainly have, who are clearly going through some stuff, but because of the stigma of it, they didn't feel comfortable talking to you or other people. And don't think that you could be that person that's like with open arms and like, oh, like, I'll help you, I'll be the listening ear. Nope. They've been taught not to do that. So even if you give them the opportunity to share and talk, most people will not take it up, or if they do, they won't share everything. And so That's the reason why things like counseling, you know, psychiatrists, etc., like, I feel like it'll never be socially acceptable until they implement it in elementary school and junior high and high school and college, and talk about it, and have celebrities talk about it, and have advertisement for it, and have, you know, TV, you know, shows talk about it, etc. Because you would think that by doing that, because that's how it's worked in the US, it will make people more socially aware of it and make it, you know, lose the stigma, and where people can talk about these things without being looked upon as, you know, being a weak individual or whatever. And, you know, it'll save people's lives here. You know, so many innocent people are ending their lives every day, every month, every year here over things that could have easily been resolved. Have to have the ability to vent. You can't just let everything bubble up. Because what's going to happen is you're going to take out your anger on other people. That's why you have people getting, you know, cheated on and, you know, physically harmed here every day because they feel like they have no outlet. And this isn't to excuse it, but I'm just being real. People handle their anger, their sadness, their emotions in different ways. You have people here that are, you know, walking around binge drinking, alcoholics, etc., because they're going around with undiagnosed depression, anxiety, anger issues, just all of these feelings that are not being dealt with properly, and they're literally just drinking and smoking them away. So yeah, that's it for this video. So thank you for listening, thank you for watching. If you have anything you'd like to add about this, please leave it down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please leave a like on this video and please subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Comic95. You can follow me on TikTok as well at Comic the Savior, and also add me on Snapchat at Comic the Savior too. I also have a blog you can read at comic95.com, and I have a Facebook fan page at Comic95 the Savior. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for watching, and I hope you'll watch another video. Bye.